There are often parallels drawn between the World Rally Championship and Formula One. Indeed, team budgets in rallying are comparable with those of the premier form of motorsport. And for the manufacturers, the success on the World Rally circuit equates with prestige and, more importantly, sales. Since 1989, when Australia was added to the World Rally circuit, the top teams have been spending millions of dollars to bring their Formula Ones of the forest down under to contest Rally Australia. For the drivers in the World Rally Championship, the forests of southwestern Australia provide a different kind of challenge. The gravel roads here are unlike any other surface that they have to compete on around the world. They say it's just like driving on marbles, and it's that element that adds to the challenges, adds to the drama, and adds to the risk that they take over the next 4 days.
Oh, bloody hell!
Last year, the spectacular Spaniard Carlos Sainz found just how tricky the gravel could be when he rolled, firstly without serious consequences, and then more terminally just hours later. Another who was in strife was Frenchman Didier Auriol, who had difficulty not only with the trees, but also with the language.
Oh, what happened here, Didier?
I don't know. Maybe one
tree?
Yes, I don't know. It's difficult to see.
Yeah. Oh dear. Very twisty in there.
Exuberant Aussie Ross Dunkerton had perhaps the closest call of all.
I think you could have probably put probably a hair between the front of the car and the back of the car. We just got through. It was... Mate, what am I doing here?
And then there was the Swede Ingvar Carlsson's dramatic exit. The 1992 rally year before Australia will be mostly remembered for the dominance displayed by the Lancia team, and especially that of the hard-charging Didier Auriol. He started in 6 rallies this year, finished 5 and won 5 in Monte Carlo, Corsica, Greece, Argentina and Finland. With wins in New Zealand and Kenya, El Matador Carlos Sainz is a close second in the championship and desperate for victory in Perth. Third on the driver's table is the man who's won the last 3 Rally Australias, the famous flying Finn Juha Kankkunen, Auriol's teammate. Also making an appearance this year is another celebrated Finnish driver, Ari Vatanen. A former world champion, Vatanen is best known for his wins in the Paris-Dakar and his record-breaking ascent of the world's oldest and most famous hill climb, Pikes Peak in Colorado. Among the Australians, South Australian schoolteacher Ed Ordinsky is one of the best performed. Driving his standard Group N production car, Ordinsky finished Rally Australia 10th outright in 1991, was the first Group N car to finish and ended up 4th in the Group N class in the World Championship at the end of the year. But Australia's brightest light in the rally world is undoubtedly local hero Ross Dunkerton, 7th outright in Rally Australia last year, and with a 3rd in this year's Rally of New Zealand, has recorded the highest placing ever by an Australian in a round of the World Rally Championship. Next, one of the first stages of Telecom's Rally Australia, the special Qantas spectator stage at Muresk. With this unique look at what faces the drivers, the inimitable Ross Dunkerton, at the wheel and at the microphone.
Over the crest, second, third, 100, 120, 130, onto the brakes hard, and this is a tricky corner into a right-hander, careful with the concrete on the outside, in tight. Down over a bit of a crest onto a left hand, fast left hand over here. Down into what I call the roller coaster. Fast down over a crest, and the G-force as we hit the bottom here, you sink into the seat. Oh, and over the top. Over the top we go, into a left-hander. Left-hander over the crest, and here we come to the famous grid. Oh, let's see if we can get through it this time. I'm going to pick the line. Oh, we're coming around. Halfway through. Oh, hallelujah. Up here, over a crest, line crest, into a right-hander, get it sideways. Nice and close, that's the way. Next one, take it wide, and cut it fine over the crest. Now, this is the big jump. Everybody strapped in over this one. Will be 2 metres in the air. Hold on! Into a right-hander. And this next one is a fast right-hander. As fast as we can go. Nice and close. Bit of drift down wide. Plenty of run. Let's go. Come on in. Oh, there's the timing marker up ahead. In the fourth. These cars will be doing probably 160, 170 as they go through the timing marker. That's it. Everybody had a good time.
WRC Australia, the Qantas spectator stage at the Muresk Agricultural College. Already the Lancia of Didier Auriol is showing signs of wear and tear after the Frenchman clipped a tree. He's holding nothing back right from the start.
I know that it's a rally, very difficult rally, and it's very easy to do mistakes on this race because the roads are very narrow and there are many trees practically in the middle of the road. And sometimes it's really difficult, but okay, it's fine.
The Finn, Ari Vartinen, having endured many mechanical failures this year and a crash, was looking to a better result in Australia, maintaining his positive outlook.
It hasn't been disappointing because your success is never granted, and it goes up and down, and I have had my fair share of success also. So it's all long-term thing, and I'm confident.
And as for the exciting Spaniard Carlos Sainz, he was as reserved as ever, saving his flamboyance for the track.
This next Muresk stage, it's fast, it's open, there are gates and there are jumps. Does your adrenaline surge? We will see how it's going. I'll tell you after the stage. 4 minutes, we're going to be there in 4 minutes, right?
The ever-gregarious Ross Dunkerton sometimes needs a nudge from his co-driver to get him going, especially at the start of rallies.
It normally takes me sort of 4 or 5 stages to sort of get into a fine-tuned situation. It's a bit like, say, bigger ice skating or ballroom dancing. You know, you've got to have a bit of a warm-up session, and for me to go in there and do it straight away, I just can't. I never have been able to. It always takes me 5 or 6 stages. The
Qantas Muresk stage is 7 kilometres through the college grounds normally reserved for agricultural machinery. 3 times world champion Juha Kankkunen, carrying the prestigious #1, was first away and deceptively fast with his smooth and effortless technique. Carlos Sainz always looks like he's going harder than anyone else, and on his first circuit around Muresk he was, his time being 3 seconds faster than the next best. Also proving a crowd pleaser was Didier Auriol, the informed driver of 1992, recording the second fastest time. Ross Dunkerton was also quick, only 8 seconds behind the leader in equal 4th place. But as steady rain continued, track conditions deteriorated, and the second run around Muresk was shaping up very differently from the first, something Dunkerton was mindful of.
First time round was good because we were the 5th or 6th car through, but now the whole field's been through once, and you find little front-wheel drive cars and that sort of thing are sort of digging it up a fair bit, so yeah, it's going to be a bit trickier than the first time through.
Into the second round, and the track was looking treacherous. Even Juha Kankkunen looked like he was having difficulty coming to terms with it, but not for long.
No doubt about that. Juha Kankkunen really doing a bit of slip and slide here at US now as we see him come down under brakes. Watch the car's attitude change here. Gets a little bit of air. Plenty of mud sliding around there. Gets the car totally sideways. Watch this now. Oh, great driver this fellow. Plenty of experience. As we said before, winner 86, 87, 91 World Championships, 90 and 91 the Rally of Australia first place. You're watching one of the best in the world here as he comes up to the starting grid. Over they come again. Bang! Thank you. Great television here from the West.
Now this is the bloke we've got to keep an eye on. 4-wheel drive, very powerful. He could very well take the lead at this stage in my opinion.
Lewis Moyer, the co-driver of the great Spanish matador, Carlos Sainz now. Look at the Celica as he gets it going and throws the mud straight away. He's got the car sideways and back up. This is Carlos Sainz when he loves to go. He's on the charge. He's made 4 seconds up. The attitude of the car every which way. He's in for a big go here. Great stuff here in the West now as we're really seeing the big boys in action. And this man really has been on the charge, making up seconds on every stage, chasing the Frenchman, Didier Auriol, a big offhand! What about Sage with a big slide? Talk about slippery and wet. Look at the air the Toyota gets now. Up he goes down a gear, puts it down right to the floor and gets plenty of power to the ground.
Yeah, he's certainly putting the power to the ground. It's going to be very interesting to see. I predict this car is going to be about 3 or 4 seconds quicker than the Lancias, but time will tell. He's certainly trying.
Alan, the heavier car would work better in these conditions. At least he's getting more weight down on this wet road.
Oh, yeah, sure. But, I mean, also the heavier car, you definitely need the horsepower to put it along. But 138 kilometres an hour as he comes up towards the finishing line, this will be interesting.
3:45.55.
El Matador was once again the quickest around Muresk, but he wasn't the only spectacular driver. True to his word, Finland's Ari Vatanen was going flat out, showing just how much of a rally virtuoso he is. With that performance, Vatanen was just 2 seconds behind Sainz on the stage. The rest of the competitors could just look on in wonder and do their best to match them.
Whoops, see how it's all chopped up and thank you very much.
Oh, dear. Oh.
Taking the shortcut to Perth.
For Australian Rally champion Rob Herridge, Muresk was to be as far as he would go in Telecom Rally Australia. His Group N Subaru may have been reliable enough all year to secure him the Australian Championship, but in this event, a seized gearbox put paid to his challenge for Group N honours. With him out of the way, the Mitsubishi of Ed Ordinsky was looking more secure at the head of the Group N table for standard cars. The South Australian schoolteacher was in 9th outright. In a separate event within the rally for identical Daihatsu charades, West Australian Paul Madlener was leading, but clutch problems would soon end his rally. Hovering in second place was another West Australian, Lee Hines, poised to take over the lead. Third behind him in the challenge was the series leader, Queensland's John Goasdue. The first full day of rally action drew to a close. Competitors headed back to Perth City for a unique special stage on the Swan River foreshore. This stage, designed for spectators, is a match race. Driver against driver, car against car, and everyone against the clock. A tight 2-kilometre course has been laid out on Langley Park. Loose clay and concrete walls. A testing challenge of car control. Coming to immediate terms with this new form of rallying was the Finnish master, Juha Kankinen, up against Carlos Sainz. He was in devastating form, covering the 2 kilometres in 1 minute 31, a clear 3 seconds ahead of his rival. The day had belonged to Kankinen's Lancia teammate Didier Auriol. He'd come to this stage holding a 34-second lead over the Finn Ari Vatanen, and there was no way he was going to relinquish it here, even though Vatanen too was holding nothing back. Ross Dunkerton, who was in 7th place, found himself matched against another Lancia, that of Argentinian Jorge Recalde. The local boy couldn't match Recalde in terms of horsepower, but when you put Dunkerton in front of a crowd of spectators, he always seems to pull out something extra. And so it was here, as the two crossed the line together with identical times, 1:33, the third fastest of the night. It was an exhilarating end to a long and difficult day.
How many minutes we got?
On day two, some of the cars were starting to show signs of wear and tear. 10% of the field had dropped out altogether. Kiwi Possum-born was nibbling at the heels of the top four European cars, but still looking for the best from his car.
We had a lot of niggling problems yesterday, and I couldn't really get it together on the slippery stuff. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest. I was hoping I'd be able to give them a bit more of a run for their money. So the boys have been working pretty hard and trying to figure out the little things. That it's just the stupid little electrical things we're having trouble with to get the centre diff and all that working properly. So once we get that right, we might be able to come back to the same times as the front guys, or get very close anyway.
Carlos Sainz is not altogether happy in third place and is finding it hard to match the Lancias.
When it was fast, we could beat the Lancias or stay with them, but as soon as it was getting very twisty and narrow, it was very difficult.
The man everyone would like to emulate is Oriol, but the combination of car and driver is formidable for the others.
He does go very, very well indeed, and it's difficult to stay up with him, but it's still early days and we will see what happens. I think my concern is mainly those two guys right behind me.
It was on this stage last year that Carlos Sainz suffered one of his excursions off the track with a brief rollover, but he was having no problems like that this year as he blitzed his way through the stage to record one of the fastest times. Lancia's Kankinen was even faster. Ari Vartanen, on the other hand, lost valuable seconds when he stalled on a railway crossing.
I braked too early and then I accelerate and then braked again, and then I braked slightly too late, and anyway I just panicked a little bit and stalled the engine instead of just driving around the corner. I kept on braking till it stopped.
Oriol was charging, but lost a little by sliding too much. Possum-born was starting to get it all together. Ross Dunkerton went off during the stage, damaging the side panels, which were rubbing on his front tyre, but he was still fast. The rally's next stages were held in the pine forest southwest of Perth near Bannister. It was here, out of sight of cameras, that Kiwi Rod Millen clipped a tree and rolled his Mazda 323, putting him out of the event, and his co-driver Tony Circum in hospital with broken ribs. The man he was pursuing, his good mate Ross Dunkerton, came across the accident scene 2 minutes later.
Because he had actually hit a tree, then ricocheted back onto the road. So as we came round, he was blocking the road. If he hadn't got out of the car, there would have been a major accident.
So that's one Kiwi out of the way, but you still got Possum-born in front of you, haven't you?
Yeah, we don't worry about Possum. The name speaks for itself, doesn't it?
It was on this stage last year that Carlos Sainz and Luis Moya so dramatically crashed out of Rally Australia, flipping their cars 6 times. It must have been preying on their minds because the Spaniards were noticeably slower than their rivals through here, dropping more than a minute overall.
Tell me, when you got to the end of that stage 13 where you rolled last year, was there a sigh of relief in the car?
No, but before the stage we talked about that bend and we said we will take it easy in that bend. That is what we did.
Didier Auriol, on the other hand, was having no such doubts. Lancia had widened the track on the front of these cars this year, and it seems to have made a difference to their superb balance. The Frenchman was a happy man.
Yes, but the problem, I must drive fast, and we know that on this route it's very easy to do one mistake in one moment. Never you think about that, but one moment you go, what happened? And okay, I try to drive fast, but I try to don't take too much risk.
Another impressed by the way Oriol was going was Ari Vartanen.
I can see his marks, and that boy has a confidence, really has a confidence. But when the things go well, you do have a confidence, but between those trees at 100 miles an hour, you do need a confidence.
Vartanen himself is pretty impressive. He's always been considered something of a rallying maestro, and his talents were perhaps never better demonstrated than through the narrow, twisty tracks of the forest near Bannister. The Finn's speed was such that he overtook Sainz through the forests and went into third outright, hot on the heels of a consistent Juha Kankkunen, who, although going well, could not quite close the gap on his teammate Oriol. Back in the field, the car of Ed Ordinsky, a standard Group N Mitsubishi, was running well. Ordinsky's smooth and precise driving skill is something that always impresses. He never seems to do anything unnecessary, and as a result, he was comfortably leading Group N and was in 8th place overall.
Leading the Group N class, does that put pressure on you this early in the rally?
Yes, it does, although it was in our plan to attack from the word go because the overseas guys haven't had the experience here that we have, and I thought if I let them get their eye in, it's going to be tough, and it probably is. I mean, they're getting closer to me all the time, as you can see from the stage results.
Around 2 minutes behind Ordinsky were 3 other drivers looking for Group N honours. Japanese dentist Kiyoshi Inoue, WA businessman Tolly Chalice, and Arab driver Mohammed bin Sulayem. Another moving through the field was rookie driver, jazz musician James Morrison in a powerful Toyota GT4. He'd improved his position from 41st at the start to 24th outright.
I'm having an absolute ball. This is great. This is nearly as good as playing the trumpet.
I don't see any dents on the roof though.
No, I haven't seen it over yet. I'm trying to keep it up one way till the end of the rally.
In the battle for the Daihatsu Challenge, WA's Lee Hines was holding a comfortable 6-minute lead over series leader John Goasdewey from Queensland. After their day of slipping and sliding around the forests of Western Australia, the unique match racing challenge of the Langley Park Special Stage is all that remains before the tired crews can park their cars for the day and prepare for the next. For Carlos Sainz in 4th place, it's been a frustrating couple of days. His Toyota doesn't seem a match for the Lancias of Oriol and Kankkunen, and being overtaken by Vartanen's Subaru couldn't be helping his disposition. But to suggest his race was run was like waving a red rag to a bull. Sainz's time of 1 minute 28 was 6 seconds faster than his time of the previous evening, and faster than anyone else could manage. But the Lancias of Oriol and Kankkunen weren't far behind.
And you watch him now, he's got a big fast run down here, but he's got a lot of ground to cover up the back straight. Oriol can come back at him again, it is not over. Car number 3, watch him pitch it in.
Vartanen's good day continued, and his time of 1 minute 30 matched the Lancias. The battle between those two mild-mannered introverts, Dunkerton and Bourne, continued. Racing side by side and desperate to squeeze out any advantage they could, it was neck and neck until a pumped-up Dunkerton flashed over the line marginally ahead. At the end of the day, Didier Oriol maintained his dominance, leading the rally by 1 minute and 6 seconds over Juha Kankkunen. Vartanen was 1 minute 21 behind, Carlos Sainz, 1 minute 53. Possum Bourne, 6 minutes 6 seconds off the pace, and Ross Dunkerton, 7 minutes 56. The leading Group N competitor was still Ed Ordinsky in 8th outright. Day 3, and the action moves back into the forests of the southwest. It's the most critical day of the rally. It begins just after dawn at 6 a.m. and will not finish until the competitors have covered more than 800 kilometres 15 hours later. On this, the longest day, teams are aware that the rally will probably be won or lost. And they know that if they are to challenge Oriel's lead, then this is when it must happen. Throughout the rally, the superbly skilled Vatanen has been pushing the lead cars of Oriel and Kankkunen, often setting the fastest times on different stages. However, sadly for him, his Subaru was to succumb to the frenetic pace. Vatanen seized his gearbox, and as has happened several times already this season, the Finns race ended prematurely because of mechanical failure rather than driver misjudgment. Others simply found their skills were not up to the relentless tempo. Carlos Sainz, now in 3rd place following Vatanen's demise, was going as hard as he could, but the Lanciers continued to extend their lead. Kankkunen was also pushing. If the others were hoping Didier Auriol would drop off the pace or make a mistake, they were to be disappointed. The exciting Frenchman maintained the pressure and continued to extend his lead. As the longest day continued, the rally focus moved further south to the forests around Collie, and the incidents kept on coming. 2nd place Kankkunen, no longer being pressed by Vatanen, sideswiped a big rock, ripped off a rear wheel and dropped a couple of minutes. It allowed Carlos Sainz to retake 2nd by a narrow margin. Dunkerton's problems continued as well. On one very long stage, he suffered a flat tyre near the beginning and was forced to change the wheel, losing a further 4 minutes. Possum Bourne would have been happy if that was all that happened to him, but instead he too hit a rock, ripped out his front suspension and wheel. It made driving very difficult and cost him plenty of time when he ran off the road.
We spent sort of 20 minutes trying to get it out of the bush, and we finally got it out with the help of some spectators who I must thank. If you're listening, thank you. And then we came out and the boys really pulled their best finger out, you know, and they worked their guts out and got it all fixed up for us because they had to put a strut in it. And by driving out on 3 wheels, I smashed all the brakes and everything, so they had to put all new stuff on. So we actually only arrived here 8 minutes late, so pretty pleased.
As a result of that incident, the New Zealander dropped from 4th place to 9th. Jazz musician James Morrison would have settled for losing just a few places, but after pushing too hard, his Toyota ended up on its roof and out of the running.
Well, we were doing well. We were just going along a straight and got a bit out of shape and clipped a tree and then off into a roll and ended on its roof. Managed to push it back over with the help of some spectators and officials and got it going again, but it was upside down for too long, I think.
By mid-afternoon on the third day, crews are starting to feel the frustration and fatigue brought on by pushing man and machine to the absolute limits for several days. For Carlos Sainz, it's amplified by his inability to match the Lanciers.
I don't think it's a matter of power. It's more the whole suspension together with tires, the whole combination. It looks it is working very, very well.
Didier Auriol, on the other hand, holding on to a 3-minute lead, was feeling pretty relaxed.
Yes, it's very, very good for me, but okay, many things can happen yet. But sure than now, I drive not fast. I drive very slow speed, and I hope I have no problem with the car on something, I hope.
The next challenge in the rally was the Bunbury Super Stage, half tarmac and half gravel, a special treat for the inhabitants of this seaside city. For the drivers, the dilemma is in the choice of tyres. Should they be off-road or special racing slicks? For Kankinen, the choice is made easier by the fact he doesn't have slicks, a fact that Carlos Sainz feels might help his friendly rival get it all wrong.
Yeah.
After Bunbury, it was back into the forest near the town of Harvey. With his comfortable lead, Auriol could afford to ease up and take fewer risks. But if he was, it was hard to detect. Kankinen was giving it everything, driving to the limit and concentrating hard. It was paying dividends because on 4 successive stages, he was the fastest. And by late in the day, he caught El Matador and resumed his second place in the rally. Possumbourne is also moving up the field. After tearing off his front wheel earlier in the day, he manages to retake much of the lost territory, moving up from 9th to 7th and starting to threaten Ed Ordinsky's place in 6th. However, it was of little concern to the quiet Mitsubishi driver, as his main objective was to win his class, and as he had a 3-minute lead in Group N, he was enjoying himself.
Today's by far the best day of the rally. The roads here are just fantastic. What more can I say?
West Australian Tolly Chalice also had his eyes on the Group N trophy and was trying to catch Ordinsky, even though he was running out of little things for his car, like tyres.
Not any spares, no. We're using the Westec tyre change now, front to the back and the back to the front.
As dusk fell on the longest day, Auriol maintained his commanding lead. Kankinen was 10 seconds ahead of Sainz, Recalde was 4 minutes 49 ahead of Dunkerton, and Ordinsky, the Group N leader, only 16 seconds ahead of Bourne. The leader of the Daihatsu Challenge was Lee Hines in 33rd place overall. The main question on everyone's minds going into the final day was, could Didier Auriol hold it all together, and could anyone possibly match him? Telecom Rally Australia, The task of catching lead driver Didier Auriol was a daunting one. The second and third place drivers, Kankkunen and Sainz, could do nothing but their best and hope for Auriol to make a mistake. It was not to be, as all three drivers broke the record time set last year through the Swan Valley, their speeds approaching 200 kilometres an hour. In the end, it wasn't so much could anyone catch Auriol that mattered. It was could Sainz catch Kankkunen? The answer was no. On every stage, the Finn recorded the fastest times, and the Spaniard had to settle for third. Auriol hung on to his lead to win by 1 minute 41 over Kankkunen, the first time any driver has won 6 rounds of the World Rally Championship in 1 year. The Frenchman made it seem easy, setting the fastest times on 12 of the 35 stages. His dominance of the championship this year is such that he's been reportedly offered $4 million to switch camps next year to Toyota. Taking second was Juha Kankkunen. Sainz was third, Recalde fourth, Dunkerton fifth, Bourne sixth, Odinsky seventh, Challis eighth, Inoue ninth, and Stallard 10th. The Group N class winner was Ed Odinsky, with Tolly Challis and Kiyoshi Inoue taking second and third. The Daihatsu Challenge was won by Lee Hines from Lee Patterson and John Goazdue, but they weren't the only winners. Eventually unsuccessful in his bid to win the 1992 World Drivers' Championship. The last 2 rounds in Spain and Britain were dominated by the Spanish pairing, Carlos Sainz and Luis Moya. And last week, they were crowned World Drivers' Champions for 1992.